Let's take a quick look at creating this assignment for bracket design in both the 2D and the 3D. First thing you'll do is start a brand new drawing using the ACAD DWT template, and then save that file to the folder that you're using to save your files to, and we will call it assignment 4 and your name. Assignment 4, your name, go ahead and pick save. I generally turn the grid off. It's up to you. The book lesson uses construction lines created in kind of a grid so that you can draw on a grid. So there are, as you know already, several ways of doing this. I'd want to show you one way of drawing this in 2D and then turning it into a 3D solid. So we can start the line command. There are also layers that you can create. I'm just going to go ahead and create them on the layer 0 for now. So I'll start the line command. I'll pick a point, pull my mouse straight down, now making sure some of you like to use here ortho. I like to use polar. At the bottom left corner there, the 5th icon is polar tracking. So I'm going to pull my mouse straight down, make sure my mouse is pulled down straight, and type in 5. And now, this is your choice. You can type in 5.75 for 5 3/4 inch, or you can type in 5 and then dash 3/4 and enter. And then pull your mouse to the left and type in either 1.5 or 1-1/2. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in 1.5 and enter. And then I'm going to pull my mouse up and type in 1 and enter. Now I could have actually started this up here with a 1/2 inch line, so I'll go ahead and right click and pick enter. And then I'll start the line command again by right clicking and picking repeat line. I'll click here, making sure you have the object snap icon on, which is the 6th icon here, and the endpoint object snap. You can verify that by resting your pointer here on object snap, right clicking and making sure there's a blue box around endpoint. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click here, pull my mouse to the left, type in 0.5 and enter. So now I have the lines drawn for that kind of side view, a fillet anyway. So I'm just going to draw this line at any specific, doesn't matter how long it is, and I'll just go ahead and draw this line so that I can fillet this afterwards. Now I can start to develop the other view. I can start the line command, and if I just rest my pointer on this corner, I can kind of track over to a point somewhere here. Doesn't matter where, as long as I have enough room for my dimensions. I'm going to go ahead and click. I can pull my mouse straight up and type in 4.5 and enter. And then there are different ways of drawing this. I'll go ahead and start the line command again. Come down here and get my 1-5/8, 1 5/8 inch, and pull my mouse up and click anywhere. Doesn't matter how long this line is. Okay. Now I could use offset. I'll use offset up here. I'll start the offset command. I'll type in 2-7/8 for 2 7/8, and I'll click on this line on the left side, or on the right side, and click to the left. I know that the top line is in line with this line, so I'll start the line command and I'll click over here, pull my mouse across, and click. And then the center of the circle is actually going to be 1 3/4 of an inch from the top line down, because the radius of the larger circle is 1 3/4. So I'll use the offset command to type in 1.75 for 1 3/4 and enter. And I'll use this top line to select the top line and come down and click. So now I know where the center of my circles are, and one is radius and one is diameter. So the bigger one here, I'll go to circle center radius. I'll click here, the intersection of these two lines, and type in 1.75 and enter. And then the small one is diameter, so I'll go back to here, the circle command center diameter. I'll click here from in center point and type in 1.75 and enter. So I also know that the smaller circle is 7/8 of an inch from this line. Some of you will use offset. I like to use tracking, object snap tracking. It's down here in the status bar. It's kind of the center icon. It looks like an angle, and it's called object snap tracking. If I start now the circle center diameter circle for that small circle, I can just rest my pointer here and pull my mouse to the left. You see how it kind of leaves a little alignment point? I didn't click. I just rest my pointer, pull my mouse to the left, type in 7/8 and enter. And now it tracks over 7/8 of an inch. You could actually just create an offset and then use the intersection of those two lines for that circle also. Now I'm ready to type in 5/8 for 5/8 of an inch. Okay, well, I know that this angled line is 30 degrees. So what I could do, some of you might have learned to use keyboard inputs for the coordinate system, and you might say something like at a distance less than 30, but I like to use polar tracking. So the fifth icon here, you can rest your pointer on polar tracking, right click. So if you right click with your pointer on polar tracking, you can click 30 so that you can set up increment angles of 30 degrees. So now when I start the line command and I click here, I'm going to see the increment angles at every 30 degrees, which in this case is really 120. I'll pull my mouse over here to the 120 angle and click. And then we need one more line here at the quadrant of the circle or the intersection. I'll bring my mouse over here and click because I know I'm going to use radius for this one. And one more line here. It comes across to finish up this bottom leg here. Now, a good point to make here is that when I fillet this, there's going to be an extra line here that I'll be working with. So right now I'll just use the grips to make that line shorter, use my escape key, and I'll just go ahead and draw another line here. There are other ways of creating this, but hey, this is the way that this is one way of creating your 2D image. Now I can use the trim command. If I start the trim command and I press enter, everything becomes a cutting edge. So I can just continue to click and trim these pieces that I don't need out. I'll erase these two lines. And now I'm ready for my fillets. If you start the fillet command, you can right click and pick multiple, or type in M for multiple, and then right click and pick radius. so that you can set up the fillet radius here of 0.25, which is a quarter, and enter. And now, according to here, this detail in chapter 6, I'm going to click on these two corners. We have a fillet here, one at the top, and one here. Now, even when you're in the fillet command, once you start the multiple process and you've finished your fillets that you're working with, you can right click again and pick radius to change the radius to 0.5 and enter, so that you can stay in the fillet command to finish it up. And then I'll just extend this line a little bit using grips. I'm done with the 2D portion of the drawing. Now we're ready to throw the dimensions on. In the Annotate tab, you've got dimensions here, but we need to set up for fractional measurement. So type in D and enter, just the letter D and enter. And then in the Dimension Style dialog box, you can pick Modify, and then in Primary Units tab, you can change the unit format to fractional. I'll pick OK and close. And now when I use the linear dimension, I can click here and here, and I've got my 5 3/4 of an inch. Another kind of good way of doing that, if you didn't know this already, I'll go ahead and erase this. When you start the linear command, you can press enter and change and select the line that you want to dimension, and AutoCAD will automatically pick up the endpoints for you. We can't always do that because we don't always have a straight line, but that's one good thing that we can do. And we also have here the option of right-clicking and repeating the dim linear so that we can throw in here other dimensions. When we dimension here a dimension that needs to be lined up with another one, you can pull your mouse over to the other one and use the end of the arrow there to line it up, and know that it will be lined up completely. And we have here a center of circle for these dimensions. And some people, for the radius here dimension, will go to the dimension drop down and use here radius or diameter. You can even use it for this radius. Now, this is the part AutoCAD has set up for some reason. When you use this tool and you pull your mouse to the left, you've got this extra small line here. There are a couple of different ways you can fix it. So once you place this radius here using this drop down, you could fix it, or you can just use a multi-leader. But what I'll show you here is that if I select it so that it has these grips on it, and I right click and pick Properties, I can go into the Properties palette and find Extension Line under Lines and Arrows and turn that from on to off. That way I can close out of the Properties palette, use my Escape key to get rid of the grips, and I have my radius here that I can work with a little bit better. Looks like the drawing that we're trying to duplicate. Also, I probably should have lined these up so even after you've placed it, you can click on the dimension, click inside the grip, and find an endpoint over here to line it up. This one could even be brought down a little bit more using those grips. We have 30 degrees here. We won't be able to use the extension lines for the angular dimension. So here, if I click here and here, I won't be able to click it. So if I click this line and this line, I can still pull my mouse around here and get the 30 degrees. And now I have lines to finish that indicate the hidden lines here on the side view. And one solid line I'll draw right now. From here, I will track over and click, and then pull my mouse over and click. You have a choice. You can create a layer called hidden, or you can draw them as solid lines and then change the properties to hidden. So I'll just go ahead and create a new layer since I know I need to create another layer for my 3D model later on and text. So I'll start here the layer properties palette and create here a new layer and call it hidden. And if I press enter twice, I'll create another one called text. And let's see, what else do I need? I already have all the dimensions on layer 0, so it doesn't really matter right now. Actually, I will create a layer called dimensions and one called 3D model. The best way to draw this object would be to create another layer that would include the objects and change the color to a different color so that you know that the objects are on that layer. You can even change the line weight so that when you print it, it will be bolder than the other lines. I can pick, for instance, 0.5 and then pick OK. So I'll change the 3D model to some other color. Doesn't matter what, I'll make it blue. But the hidden layer, we want to change the line type. So for the hidden line, we're going to go over to line type and pick continuous, pick load. You learn this, hopefully some of this in your first level class. You can highlight hidden and pick OK. And what that does is it loads it. But now you have to highlight hidden and pick OK in order for it to be that layer. Line type, and then double click here to make that layer the current layer. I can close out of the properties palette. Now I'm ready with the hidden layer. Current, I can start the line command, and I know that that hidden line is coming from the top of this bigger circle. So I'll rest my pointer there, kind of track over to this line and then click, pull my mouse over and click. And I'll do that for all of these hidden lines. I will here track from the top of the smaller circle over and click, and then click. Track from the bottom of the smaller circle, click, click, and the bottom of the larger circle, and also from here, the bottom part of this curve. If you'd like to clean up your drawing, you can select here all of the dimensions. It's only a small drawing, so it won't take very long to select those dimensions, drop the layer list down, and pick dimensions so that you have them on the dimension layer. And then as long as you understand how to select objects, you can select objects from left to right in this box so that only the objects that are completely inside the box will be selected. You see how only those objects that are completely inside the box are selected. The dimensions are sort of like blocks, so it doesn't matter. As long as I'm selecting from left to right and I have this blue box and not the green one, only the objects completely inside the box are selected. And now I can change here the layer to objects. I'll use my escape key to get out of those. And my hidden lines actually were changed. I can select these hidden lines and move those to the hidden layer again. So there we go. We've got our detail. If I type in D and enter and pick modify, you go to the symbols and arrows tab. Notice here under center marks, you can either pick none if you don't want that little plus sign in the center of the circle, or you can pick line, which gives you one mark and one line. And by default, it's 0.009. So if I pick OK and I pick close, you see how it automatically will use that size. Now we can change the layer to text and use the multi-line text, which is in the Annotate tab if you're in the 3D modeling workspace. And if you're in drafting and annotation, it would be back in the Home tab. But here in 3D modeling, you can work in either space. You can use here the Annotate tab and pick up multi-line text. I'm going to go ahead and click here, pull my mouse across and click here. Put your cap locks on, and let's call this assignment 4. And then if we look at this, it's assignment 4 bracket design. And then put your name under here, the detail, and highlight assignment 4 bracket design and pick U for underline. Click in space and you have your title. This is assignment 4, the 2D version of it, the 2D part of it. And the next assignment will take this 2D drawing and create a 3D drawing out of it.